I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him and kissed him.
A longing to be loved, a longing for purpose, and a longing to find answers to life's most difficult questions. We all have these longings.
But too often we look to satisfy these longings in all the wrong places. Like the prodigal son in the story, we set off to find fulfillment on our own, and we're met with regret over and over again.
Yet every time we come to a crossroad that'll take us in one of two directions. And we know old habits die hard, so many of us keep spinning in the sorry cycle of longing and regret, longing and regret.
It might be a cycle of bouncing from one relationship to another.
It might be a cycle of spending that takes us deeper and deeper in debt.
For others, it's a cycle of addiction that spins us out of control.
The last affair I had turned into a relationship. It lasted 3 years, and it was a living hell. I was emotionally and physically abused, and my son was physically abused. And during that time, I became a drug addict. I was on coke, and I drank a lot, and it lasted 3 years because I didn't know how to get out of it. So the only way I was able to get out of it was I moved. So I moved and didn't know where I was. Before I moved, I met my now husband. The first day I met him, we literally an hour after I met him, we ate at a TGI Fridays. We told each other stuff, and there was no judging because we both were there. We both had similar stories. It was scary. So I sobered myself up. Still had no God, but just knew I needed to do something because I was probably going to lose my kids. So we decided to get married, and before we did, we found the church. Everyone was amazing with our kids and where they should go, and it was life-changing. It is life-changing. It was amazing. It's a place that I am comforted and loved unconditionally, no matter what. It's what a home should feel like, and it does.
It was when I met my wife now that things did a total 180, and for some reason it's when I literally found my path back to God and Him being in my life 110%. You know, I kept telling her, I'm like, I want to get back into following Christ and being a godly person and trying to change my life to do more good than bad. And then I walked into the church that I'm in now, and everyone was welcoming. Nobody judged. Nobody tried to make me pursue anything that I didn't want part of. It was kind of like, we'll take your hand, and you just grab for whatever you want off the shelf. We're not going to tell you can't.
In 1974, I got out of service and came home and just fell right into the guys that were getting high and stuff, you know. The debt led me into using a needle, and that's what really started taking over my life. Hid it from everybody. I could go to work, I could do everything I wanted to do, and just spent whatever I did. I used to deal back and forth, you know, in different really bad neighborhoods. When I finally was told to leave my home and couldn't see the kids no more, I remember coming there. There was 2 police officers standing in front of the door, and they said, "You can't come in." So I lived on the streets for a while. The things I did, I stole a lot. I robbed. After I lost my job, all I did to survive, to get gas and to get more bags and stuff like that. I remember sitting down one night and thinking about what I've been doing. And that's what I was thinking about. How can someone that, you know, how can God or some more powerful me really forgive me or, you know, even want to accept me the way I was? I mean, I was past wretched. I was to the point where even suicide with thoughts were coming in. Family didn't want me. You know, the church, I really didn't try. Friends were leaving me left and right because I burned so many bridges. I didn't know what to do, to tell you the truth. just kept on getting high though, I know that. I wanted to do it myself, but myself kept on getting me back in the same place. I was doing different things, but it was the same result all the time, over and over again. And you get so far in that, you want to stop. You want to stop doing it. You want to have someone else help you out. I knew I couldn't do it myself. And to come to that realization, it takes a while for someone who's been there that long.
The good news is this. In this third awakening, we find a direction that is brand new. The third awakening is awakening to help. In this awakening, we come to realize I can't do this on my own. The prayer of the third awakening is this: God, if you are real, make yourself real to me. Awaken in me the willingness to turn toward you for help. As Jesus told this story of a son returning to his father, his audience would have had a hard time imagining the scene he described. In that day, a boy who had taken his father's money and squandered it would have experienced a very different reception from the one Jesus depicted. He would have been met with disdain and hostility. This son's choices not only brought shame to his father, it reflected poorly on the entire community.
Words really don't do justice to the full emotion of the story. Think about this: the son, his head down, walking home, rehearsing his apology over and over again, thinking to himself, both in his head and his heart, I don't deserve to be a son. Maybe I can be a servant. Maybe I can be a slave. I don't know, maybe that's a stretch. Imagine the shock, just the utter shock there must have been for the son when he looks up and he sees the father running towards him. Not coming after him to shame him or to humiliate him or to let him know how he's disappointed in him, but instead with love and affection and this huge embrace. Charles Spurgeon put it this way. He said, repentance walks, but forgiveness runs. You see, in the first century, important people, particularly important men, they didn't run. They didn't hustle for somebody else. No, everybody else ran to them. People were at their beck and call. They waited and people ran to them. But the father? Well, the father every day, he would scan the horizon, just looking for a glimpse of his son. And then the day finally came where he saw his son off in the distance. And what does he do? He runs. He runs. It's like this full-on, dead-on sprint. Not to shame or humiliate, but instead there's this embrace of love and affection and forgiveness. See, that's what I want you to get. What I want you to get is our God is exactly like that. And when we finally come to the place that we go like, I can't do this on my own. I need help. When we finally come to our senses, He runs to greet us with tears of joy, with kisses of love. And what does He do? He hugs us tight in this full-on embrace of grace. The whole reason Jesus told the story of the prodigal son was to help us find our way back to God. The reason Jesus knows so much about finding God is because He is God.
He's not some remote God who's out there, distant, and doesn't really care about what's going on in our lives. He's a God who is present, promising to never leave us on our own.
For years, many years, my husband and I both tried to do it on our own, and that wasn't working. So now we have a place that we could turn to when we need it.
There's been so many people that have been there for me through this entire journey, not just my wife, even though she's the strongest hold for me. When all that came together within like a couple weeks of going, it was literally, I dove, and it's been the greatest decision I've ever made in my life.
A God who's full of grace, refusing to condemn us even when we deserve it.
A God who is humble, bending down to care for our needs.
A God who's for us, sacrificing Himself when we were helpless to save ourselves.
A God who is relational, inviting us to follow Him closely every step of the way.
And that night, I guess I was boxed in. It was like, didn't have my family no more. My job was lost. It was cold outside. And I just felt something in me. I just needed to yell out to God and say, will you help me? And I really screamed it.
I need help. You need help. We all need help. And help has a name. And its name, Jesus.